Tuesday of Thanksgiving week. We are getting ever closer to the exciting 4 days of football this weekend, where we have Thursday, Friday, Sunday, and Monday games, which throws a whole new set of things into question for who should you be sitting and starting, and how should you be working on your fantasy team this week. Before we jump in, though, we have some exciting fun going on with our DFS Thanksgiving free DraftKings contest and our DFS Thanksgiving episode. Join us, and we have a prize pack up for grabs to the winner. The contest is only open for 100 lineups, so you better get in quick and reserve your spot and then fill in your lineup. We're only going to cover Thursday and Friday in this episode, and then we're going to release another episode later this week on Sit Start, focusing a little closer on your Sunday and Monday options based on how your Thursday, Friday did.
Yeah, Thursday, Friday, plus we'll have some more injury information later in the week, which we're always waiting on that injury information to make some of our decisions. But you need to know who you're going to start and sit on Thursday and Friday. And we can't just ignore those games since there's four of them this week. So, first game up, we've got Chicago at Detroit. Detroit's a heavy favorite at 9.5 points, but they're expecting a lot of points in this game. I am too. I'm going to this game. I'm super excited to be going to Detroit for a fun game. Some fun facts about the Bears and Detroit Lions playing on Thanksgiving Day. So the Bears have won 3 straight consecutive Thanksgiving games over the Lions in 2018, 2019, and 2021. That seems like a lot of playing each other on Thanksgiving Day, which I didn't really realize. The Lions haven't won on Thanksgiving since 2016. This is going to make Thursday even more fun, I feel like.
The Lions have had a lot of not great years, and then now good Thanksgiving game, and they haven't won a Thanksgiving game in almost a decade. They
Yeah,
have to
that really
be.
surprised me because I felt like they'd been doing better on Thanksgiving, but that's the stats that the NFL put out. So I don't feel like this is the best matchup for Amon-Ra St. Brown, but you're going to start him because he's Amon-Ra. Um, the reason for that is Chicago's been really good at stopping passing, particularly against the top wide receivers. So last week they held Justin Jefferson to 2 catches for 27 yards. They could potentially just shut down Amon-Ra equally as well. And Amon-Ra popped up on the injury report on Monday, which is not what we wanted to see at all, with a knee issue. So I have Amon-Ra. We all know he was one of my favorites going into the season. I'm going to have to watch this kind of closely to see if I'm going to risk it and play him. I'm going to play him if he's healthy. So otherwise, I'm looking at the wide receiver two for the Lions. So Jameson Williams, when the Bears shut down the wide receiver one, they open it up, it seems like, for wide receiver two, which is again what we saw last week against the Vikings because Jordan Addison ran up 33 fantasy points against the Bears in that game last week. It's a great matchup on the running back side for Jahmyr Gibbs. It's always a great game for Jahmyr Gibbs, I think. I don't know that you're ever benching Jahmyr Gibbs, right? David Montgomery is a questionable one. He left that game on Sunday and then they held him out. And afterwards, he said, I'm fine. I'll be there on Thursday. But he's still sitting on the injury report. So we've got to keep an eye on that. You know, he wants to get in there, though. This is his old team that wouldn't pay him. So he wants to go score a couple touchdowns against the Bears for sure. And the Bears are giving up points like crazy to running backs, and the Lions love to run the ball. So we're just seeing this situation particularly build. How many points can the Bears produce comes down to how far ahead the Lions get, in my opinion, because they're not going to stop the Lions from scoring. And if we've seen when the Lions get way ahead, then they get a little messier. And we're thinking back to that Calvin Ridley game against the Titans a few weeks ago when, yeah, you can have a few touchdowns because we've already scored our 50 points. But like we saw against Colts last week, when it's tighter, then they don't let you score. They shut you down.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Is this going to be more like the Colts last week, where they kept the Colts kept that a lot more competitive and a lot closer of a score.
They did. And I think this comes down to how aggressive is Thomas Brown going to be, the new offensive coordinator for the Bears? he's got to come out being more aggressive than he even was last week. Because last week, the only reason that the Bears ended up in that game and pushing it to overtime was scoring 11 points in 22 seconds near the end of the game to push that into overtime. But Caleb Williams did pass for 340 yards and he threw the ball 47 times. So they are showing that they are willing to be more aggressive with him. They're just going to have to do it from the get go. They can't wait and see, are we going to, hang in here and stay in this and then get aggressive? They're going to have to be aggressive up front. And then we could start our Bears players. So I like starting everyone in this game. I do feel like this game goes crazy and on the over. Maybe it's because I'm going to be there and I'm hoping that's what it's going to be. But of all the players, Amon-Ra St. Brown could be the one that sees the least amount of production in this game, I think. Also on the Bears, Keenan Allen's led in targets last week with 15. Guess if you're throwing the ball 47 times, your wide receivers are getting 15 targets, and tight end Cole Kmet had 10 targets. So I love both of them as well in this game.
I definitely agree with you, especially after seeing how the Bears were last week against Minnesota. I know you qualified that they tied up the game in like a very short amount of time, but I think they're building on it. That was good momentum in the right direction, and I could still see them kind of having that excitement and bringing it and trying to win. Hopefully they don't come in disheartened before the game's even kicked off.
They're going to try to make it 4 in a row, it seems like. We'll see if they can do it. I hope not. I want to root for the home team. All right, let's
Well,
move
let's
on to the
chat.
next game.
Yeah, let's chat the Giants at Dallas. Dallas is favored by 4. Over under is 37.5, so not very high scoring game. This one might be your nap time one, but we did see Dallas have a very different week last week. So I think you're going to
Yeah.
say you have to start CD Lamb.
I'm going to say you have to start CD Lamb. He's CD Lamb. I actually don't feel like Dallas has been that bad with Cooper Rush. I mean, he's not Dak, but Dak wasn't having a great year. And Cooper Rush is performing okay. Last week we saw them, win over the Commanders. The problem was winning didn't necessarily translate into too many fantasy points for anyone on the team. Probably better points than anyone expected going into that game, but still, it wasn't a lot of fantasy points. So Cooper Rush was effective and should have a better matchup this week in a game at home against the Giants. Although they haven't done so well at home. I don't know what's wrong with the Cowboys playing at home, but they haven't won a game at home yet. So this would be their first win at home this year. In their 5 games at home, 3 of them were for 10 or fewer points as well. It's not what you want in your home environment.
They're trying to follow the Giants the Giants streak of 600 and some days without a touchdown at home
I guess, yeah. Oh
that they
gosh.
finally broke this year.
I hope not. Um, but yeah, hopefully Rush has a better day. Hopefully the Cowboys have a better day at home and they can get that win against the New York Giants. So let's go through who you should start and who you shouldn't. So anybody that's got Brock Purdy, you're watching the injury news. Don't really think that Cooper Rush is who you ought to pick up and try to start because it's a Thursday game. You're definitely going to want to wait till later in the weekend to see Brock Purdy's status. So you probably want to eye Jameis Winston better as a last minute sub. I'd skip starting Cooper Rush. If you need a tight end, I do like Luke Schoonmaker for the Cowboys. It looks like Ferguson is going to be out again. So we did see a lot of production from Schoonmaker, which we also see when they try to simplify the offense for a backup quarterback like Cooper Rush. They're trying to get the ball out of his hands quickly, which means shorter passes, and the tight ends end up getting a lot more involved in the game. And that's what we're seeing in this case, too. So I do like Luke Schoonmaker if you're in need of a tight end.
What about the Giants side? We've liked neighbors at times this season. It's been kind of boomer bust. We also have Tyrone Tracy, who's been getting a lot of carries there. Are you starting either of them?
Neighbors and Tyrone Tracy are the only starts for the Giants just because Tyrone Tracy has been a very talented running back, and the Cowboys' defense isn't that good. We're still waiting to see who the quarterback's going to be for the Giants. So are they rolling with Tommy DeVito again, or do we get to see Drew Lock? And supposedly that comes down to the health of Tommy DeVito, and we'll have to wait till Thursday to probably figure that out. I feel like Drew Lock is definitely the more talented quarterback there. I don't know why they really want to roll with Tommy, but I feel better about Neighbors if we get Drew Lock. But either way, he's Malik Neighbors. You gave up too high of a pick. Unless you've just really got some strong players that are also on your bench and you've got a strong team because we don't have any buys this week, then you may consider benching Neighbors.
Yeah, this is the week you get to start all your top round picks pretty much because no one's on bye. Well, should we chat the last game of Thursday? Miami's headed to Green Bay. It's gonna be cold, I think, there.
Yep.
Green Bay's only favored by 3. Over under is 47. So Vegas thinks that this game Miami will be able to score some in.
They do. So Vegas is telling me that I should play everybody basically in this game. I've got a good point total. I've got a competitive game. Vegas says play everybody. I'm a little nervous on that. So since the 2015 season, including postseason, Miami's played 24 games where it's been less than 40 degrees, and they've lost 19 of them. If you drop that to 30 degrees, they played 9 games and won 1. It's going to be about 18 degrees at kickoff for this game.
And their
I
last 2
don't.
games have been at home where it's been warm. So they're
Yeah,
acclimated to warm still.
they are not ready for 18 degrees, I'm sure. They're going to claim they are, but I don't know that they really are. And getting tackled at 18 degrees is got to hurt a little bit more than getting tackled when it's warm.
As a runner, it was always nice to run in the cold, but football players stand around a lot.
They do, but their benches are usually heated and they got good coats.
Still seems like they stand around a lot.
They do stand around a lot. So the Dolphins are riding in on a 3-game win streak where Tua's passed for 812 yards, the most among AFC quarterbacks in the last 3 weeks. And Tyreek Hill got a little mad over Sunday's game that he wasn't more involved, but he doesn't quite look right with that wrist injury right now. I'm sure they're going to be behind. So, I mean, either it's going to be competitive or the Dolphins are going to be behind. And I feel like they're going to be throwing it. They're going to be trying to catch up. We have seen them just like throw up goose eggs, but I feel like that's mostly when Tua isn't in there. I don't want to start Tua, but if you've got Tyreek Hill, you got to start him. And Jalen Waddle had a great game last week, as well as Janu Smith. Janu Smith, again, another tight end. They're trying to get that ball out quickly, and they're bringing in Janu Smith. And they did it when Tua was out, but it's worked so well that they've kept those plays in there. So you definitely want to start Janu Smith. And of course, you're starting Devon Achane, especially with like the almost benching of Raheem Mostert.
What about the Green Bay side? We've seen Green Bay different wide receivers, and so it's kind of a chance game if it's going to be your wide receiver or not.
Yeah, it's hit and miss with the Green Bay wide receivers still. The one thing that helps a little bit is Romeo Dobbs is most likely out with a concussion. So does that mean that we can turn a little bit more to Jaden Reed and Christian Watson? Maybe it should. Although, that also could mean that we see Dontavian Wicks elevated and suddenly he's the one getting all of the targets. And we're like, wait, we thought you could go with Watson and Reed, and now you bring back in Dontavian Wicks. So, it's always an issue on starting these. Hopefully, we're going to have to see them pass more than they had to last week when they just rushed Josh Jacobs for 3 rushing touchdowns. He's definitely a for sure start because he's going to be involved. And if they get ahead, they're going to be looking to just run the time off the clock with Josh Jacobs in this matchup. So, can the Dolphins do better than San Francisco did in Green Bay last week? Is what it really comes down to, because 49ers played bad and Green Bay got away with just running the ball.
I think the Dolphins can do better than San Francisco. San Francisco is really hurting, and I know it's going to be cold, but I don't think they're that hurting and cold.
Hopefully. I'd like to see a fun night game, especially if we've got a snooze fest in that Cowboys stadium.
We'll all wake up well rested and be excited for the night game.
There you go.
And then we get to go shopping or enjoy family time on Friday morning. And Raiders are headed to the Chiefs Friday afternoon. Kansas City is favored by 12 and a half. Over under is 42 and a half, which means that Kansas City is projected to score 30 of those points at least.
Yeah, they don't think the Raiders are going to do a whole lot. I do wonder if this line if it came out before we got the news that it looks like the Raiders are going to get Aiden O'Connell back at quarterback and not have to go in with Ritter as their quarterback. So AOC is an upgrade over Ritter. You don't want to start either. And hopefully you weren't starting Ritter. He was riding out there and he was last minute when Gardner Minshew last weekend broke his collarbone. But hopefully you're not in that situation. You've got to have a better option this week with everybody playing. Anyhow, I feel like the line was a little bit there. Let's just go through the Raiders quickly because you've got to start Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers. They're like the only two pass catchers for the Raiders. So whoever's throwing it, that's where the ball's going. And for some reason, they get some garbage time, I think. So on the running side of the ball for the Raiders, just stay away from it. There's questionable tags on Zamir White and Alexander Madison, leaving Amir Abdullah in question too. And who's it going to be? And I just feel like against the Chiefs defense, this is a really bad situation. That defense has been really solid. Other than last week when they let the Panthers, stay in that game, but they did it mostly with the Panthers passing the ball, not running it on them. So on that Kansas City side, who are we going to turn to?
Are we going to see Pacheco come back? Is this
I
going to
think
be his first game back?
I think this is his first game back. I don't think we see a lot of him. I think they ease him back, but if they're way ahead like we think they will be against the Raiders, then Kareem Hunt's going to need some breaks in rushing that ball. So you're starting Kareem Hunt. Don't start Isaiah Pacheco yet. I would wait. I mean, it's
Give a week
possible.
of
This is
production.
great. Yeah, I would see how much he gets used, how much they ease him back, and go for it after that. But the Raiders are giving up a ton of rushing yards. So hopefully next week when we're dealing with buys, I can't remember if Kansas City's on a bye next week or not. But if they're not, then we might be looking to Pacheco a little bit more. We'll have to deal with that next week. Anyhow, you've also got to start Noah Gray. Noah Gray's been the tight end to go to for Kansas City. And he's only seeing like 4 or 5 targets, but he's seeing them in the red zone and he's scoring touchdowns. This was the second week in a row with 2 touchdowns. So you got to give him a chance. See if he can win your way into your fantasy playoffs with Noah Gray. I don't really want to start anyone else. I started Mahomes last week in a league, but not this week. I felt like the Panthers could keep it competitive like they did. But this week, I don't think they need Mahomes or any of their pass catchers, and they can run the ball a lot.
And we've seen Mahomes not produce large fantasy numbers several times this year.
Yeah.
So
we have.
If you
Most
have
of
a
the year he
better,
hasn't.
yeah, if you have a better quarterback option, or if you have one that's playing on Sunday or Monday, it's probably better to.
Yep.
Well, that wraps us up for the Thursday, Friday games. We'll still have another episode of this coming out closer to this weekend, so you can take what you know from the Friday games and the Thursday games and update it with what we think is going to happen on Sunday and Monday. Don't forget, we have that DFS Thanksgiving episode and our DraftKings contest going with a prize pack for the winner. Join that now. Check it out. The descriptions are, or the links are in the description. And it's only open to the first 100 lineups. So click the links in the description and join us. Happy Thanksgiving.